and ultimately we lost her. It was very heartbreaking. As doctors, again, we face these things and we have to be resilient, bounce back. But that really, shook me, and it made me want to know what is the reality. And there was so much of pain, fear, sadness, guilt, and heartbreak. And somehow I wanted to face it and be with it and see where it would lead me.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Quantum Shift, Elevating Leadership Consciousness. I'm your host Saloni Singh. I'm a life coach for CEOs, conscious leaders, and entrepreneurs who are ready to elevate their consciousness level and lead from their higher self and purpose. So, challenges are a part of our lives, right? Whether it's business, personal challenges, or any other kind of challenges. What if the challenges and struggles, the pain that we go through in life is not here to test us? Rather, they are here to help us evolve. We are going to dive deep into how pain could be a portal to our higher transformation. As they say that whether you are a business leader, whether you are a pauper or a king, doesn't matter. You are ought to have challenges as you are a human being. So today my guest is a special guest who is a doctor and who has gone through in his life through a catastrophic event that actually nudged him on a path of self transformation. Dr. Saroj Dubey. He is a senior gastroenterologist in Delhi NCR, and while he does his medical practice, alongside that, he's also helping people to lead meaningful lives through teaching mindfulness. He is the author of this beautiful book, Prescription for Resilience. And it's a prescription for deep healing, not just the symptoms, just what the doctor ordered. Welcome, Dr. Saroj Dubey.
Thank you so much, Saloni. It's such a pleasure, to be here and especially to be as a part of your podcast, because this is such a beautiful podcast about, elevating our consciousness, and especially about how we can merge spirituality and leadership and our daily professional work. So I'm really very, very grateful and honored to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saroj. I remember first time I actually got in touch with you was through social media when I used to read your beautiful quotes and posts about mindfulness and life. I would love to actually call you the mindful doctor. So I remember that. So this is such so much love coming out of your posts and any expression you have that you write. And when I read your book, I realized the beautiful deep journey that you have gone through in your own life. So I would love to start from what was that event that happened in your life. So for our listeners that who can understand that what led you, because business, sorry, doctors lead very very busy life,
You
right?
know that
I know
being a
being a doctor
doctor.
myself. Yes, they lead a very busy life and they don't have actually times for any kind of spiritual practices most of the time at least. So what led to this journey which you embarked upon, and maybe we can call it a journey of self
Yes.
discovery? Tell me about it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Aloni. So, as you said, as a busy doctor, I had been, dividing time among work and patients and whatever time was left at home. After my DM, I did my DM in gastroenterology. I finished it around 2006 or 7. Then was the time, because I was initially a voracious reader, but then due to the medical, work and all, I had stopped reading other books. Then I chanced upon The Power of Now by Eckhart
Mm.
Tolle. You have also read it. So that was a very, it really shifted things in my mind. And I wondered, oh, wow, this, he was talking about being present and presence and awakening. But then, of course, I would get back to my work. I said, okay, we'll think about it later when we have
Later.
time. And I'd also started the process of mindfulness and meditation, which was mostly to help me decrease the stress of our daily activities and, professional stress, and, just to lead a more, I would say, less stressful and more happier life. Now, this incident, which I have mentioned in the book, the first chapter, Broken Open. So, what happened was that as doctors, as a gastroenterologist, we do a endoscopic surgery, which is called ERCP, for common bile duct stones, which is attached to the gallbladder. So, I had done this. There was this young lady of around 30 odd with a young child, and she came for removal of her bile duct stones. So, the procedure had gone according to the way it should be. It was okay. But after that, the patient developed excruciating pain, and we found out that she had a complication, which was a perforation, a leak in the intestine. Now, that happens sometimes, rarely things can go wrong. So, but it was detected on time, and then we went ahead with the surgery to repair that leak, and the surgery was also done within the time frame. But even after that, the patient continued to worsen. Then she was in the ICU for around 3 weeks. She was put on the ventilator, then her BP started falling, she developed infections, one thing after another, and ultimately we lost her. So that was, somehow that incident, it really broke me open. It was very heartbreaking. And as doctors, again, you understand it very well, we face these things,
Yeah.
and we have to be resilient, bounce back. We can't really sit and mope about what has happened. But something about that particular incident, which I can't really explain, it's part of the universe's plans, that really shook me. And it made me want to know what is the reality, what is truth, what is happiness. And there was so much of pain, so much of pain, fear, sadness, guilt, and heartbreak. And I just wanted to stay with it, you know somehow I wanted to face it and be with it and see where it would lead me.
So I can imagine as a doctor, it can be very heartbreaking to lose a patient. It is of course. So you want to do anything and everything to save your patient, and it was hard, of course, for you, very harsh. So what happened when you started to see that this is something big, something that I need to look into, rather than just get on with my day and yes, accept it and just leave it there and move on? What happened that made you feel, what were the thoughts and what kind of emotions that you were going through that made you feel like I just really need to go deeper into it? That's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it's very right what you said, that when incidents happen, this is not the first of complications which happen, and neither will it be the last. And so many other, not just this incident, so many other painful episodes happen in our lives. And as you said, we pick ourselves and carry on.
Hmm.
We bounce back, and you carry on thinking, "Okay, okay, this was a bad chapter. Let's forget
Yeah.
it. Let's go on."
Yeah.
Now, here something intuitively was telling me that this did not happen just, for it, for you to just pass by and go to the next thing. There is something deeper. There is some message behind all this. And somehow I felt that the message was to be present and embrace my emotions. Because as you know, you're a coach and you have coached so many people. Whenever we have something, some deep or painful emotions, what we do normally as humans, we try to suppress it, we try to push it away, we
Yeah.
try to distract ourselves and do something else. But never, we never really want to feel what
Feel
is
it.
there.
Yes.
Here, because probably what I had read and my practices and all, something made me say that I have to open up fully to whatever was happening. I had to be totally present, embrace it, and surrender to it. So that was my, that was my, I would say, the challenge, to surrender to the fear, to the grief, to the pain, and see where it would lead. When I was reading Eckhart Tolle, because even before that, as I said, I keep on reading. Even now, whenever there's something which is which is uncomfortable, something, though I'll always open up a page. And during that time I would all the time open up, what does he want me to say. And I remember there was one phrase of his which I've quoted in my book also, that just surrender to the grief, despair, to the pain and the hurt. Just be open without resisting it. And I said to myself that this is what I'm going to do. And even if whatever was happening was to overwhelm me, I would be open to it. And there's another line which I've mentioned, which I had read and which had profoundly impacted me. One of Pema Chodron, who's a Buddhist nun, in a book, the When Things Fall Apart. I read it, and that at that time it had struck me. She said, until you expose yourself over and over to annihilation, that which is indestructible cannot be found.
Wow,
You
that's
know?
so beautiful. I
So,
feel like just taking a pause here. Yeah. So I really want you to repeat that quote for our listeners,
yes.
Saroj. And let's take a pause here because I feel as a human being, the moment we experience pain, the first feeling, even I was going through physical pain recently, and I realized that the inherent quality, even in our body, is to get rid of pain. We have this huge resistance, whether it's a mental pain, emotional pain, or physical pain. We, as a human being, we don't want pain. We want to
Yes.
resist it, do anything we can do to really heal it, right? And what you said was to be able to experience that pain over and over again, to come to a place where you can feel like we cannot
We
be
can.
destroyed, as they say that what doesn't kill you really makes you alive
Alive.
and makes you stronger. So how was that experience? So I would love you to go deep into that experience when you were going through it,
Yes.
and take a moment to feel that. And if you can share with our listeners, how was that experience? Because I don't think it was easy at all.
No,
It
not
isn't
at all.
easy for us human being. We love
Absolutely.
comfort. Our bodies,
Absolutely.
our mind, our heart loves comfort. So rather than comforting yourself through that grief, through, I'm sure there was guilt, there was pain, how was it to be in
In that.
that pain? So if you can really go back to that experience and
Yes.
share, how was
How
that?
was that? Yes, absolutely. So if I just even if I think about it, what was happening at that time, it kind of gives me goosebumps. And so there was it was a cocktail of
Mm.
emotions. So there was intense grief. I was grieving for the patient, for myself, for the family, for the husband, for the kid. There was a lot of sadness. There was guilt. Like there was this question which came, if suppose I had not done it, if
Mm.
someone else had done it, or if I had done something differently. Although I knew I had replayed that whole story maybe 100 times, so there was nothing which I could have done differently.
Mm.
Like sometimes it happens that okay, there may be some technical mistake, like as humans, it can happen, but somehow it was not there. But still this happened. So there was that grief, and there was intense suffering, trauma, humiliation.
Mm.
There was a lot of humiliation, that what like
What will
my
people say?
what will people say, ki, okay, this is the doctor. My
Mm.
what will my colleagues say, what will my seniors say, what will my juniors say,
You
what will
have a reputation.
actually
Yeah.
that is the main thing,
Yeah.
because as we always try to hold our reputation intact,
Yeah. The
you know
identity, the ego has
identity,
formed.
so. And this, when I look back, actually this is what the whole invitation was,
Yeah.
that identity, that identity of the that ego based identity
Mm.
should fall apart.
Mm.
And when I would sit, so of course, in the process of whatever I had learned from mindfulness, I realized that every emotion can be felt,
Mm.
as you know. So there is always a physical component. And if we allow ourselves to feel that, physical
Pain.
pain, it's a emotional pain, but there is a felt experience. So I would just sit, whether in the morning or in the evening, whenever I have time. My work would go on as usual. It's
Right.
not as if I took off, because obviously there are other patients. There's work to do,
Hmm.
but this was part of the process of healing. So either in the morning or once I would come back home, so I would sit and I would feel it. I remember even discussing about this with my wife. Okay, there is this pain, this fear, this guilt. It's all as if it's there
Hmm.
somewhere, as if some constriction in the chest, in the belly, and you just allowed it to be there. Just
Hmm.
being with it, being present with it, being open to it, embracing it, bringing it close, and just staying with it. Staying
Hmm.
is the most difficult part, like even feeling okay, you can feel for maybe a few seconds or a minute and all, and then you want to, move
Right.
on and try to,
Yeah.
and normally I would do the same thing, which we
Yeah.
all do, whenever you have. But here, the whole process was to stay with it,
Hmm.
you know and that was the whole journey
What
of
I'm
just
hearing,
staying it
yeah, what I'm hearing is just really being with the
with
pain
the pain,
without wanting to
to
fix it, get rid of it,
change it,
heal it, change
change
it,
it,
or do anything.
anything.
Just being the pain, in
In
the
the pain.
pain, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was the
So,
thing. And as I said, that Pema's thing, so I wanted to kind of know that if I expose myself to this
this.
intense pain and suffering, what would come out of it?
Hmm.
Would I be destroyed? Would
Yeah.
I be, my identity, would it, just
What will
be
happen?
destroyed?
Let's
Aha,
see.
yeah.
Let's
And
see.
I was willing
So,
to just see whatever was
So, what
happening.
was their curiosity and this wonder? Like, okay, what would happen? What is the worst can happen if I
Yes.
just allow myself to feel it all, right?
Yes.
So, what happened then? So,
What
when you
happened?
were
Yes.
really being with the pain, that's what
Being
you
with the
sat
pain.
with it, you allowed all the pain, you embraced it, accepted, okay, this has happened, and there's so much pain, so much pain. What happened
What
then?
happened? Yes. So, this went on for days, and thanks to whatever practice I had, I could stay with it. I could stay sometimes for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes even for half an hour or even more. I would just stay like that, and then it would slightly, when you stay with your pain, there is a shift, there's a
Hmm.
slight, decrease in the intensity. So that would give me the kind of a motivation that, okay, I can stay longer. Then, one day when I was just sitting with all that, and there was this intensity would fluctuate. It would sometimes become more intense, then less intense. And then there was that surrounding stillness.
Hmm.
It was as if there is that whole this thing avalanche of emotions, and something, as if something is surrounding it, which was very still and very peaceful. Initially it happened for few minutes, but I felt very, very kind of grateful and very puzzled also. What
Hmm.
is this? I'm feeling so much of, pain and suffering, and something, yet I'm feeling
Hmm.
peaceful. And then
Something bigger than
something
this.
bigger, and
Hmm.
which over the next few days, it, that stillness and peace, it would come more and more, stay longer. And even though there was all these feelings going on, there was something which was very still. So at that time, all I could describe it was a sense of alive presence,
Hmm.
still presence. And I realized that this is what, all the scriptures and teachers talk about,
Hmm.
that the peace that
Peace.
passes all understanding. So
Hmm.
once we are actually open to all that, we don't resist what is happening, and we open it, embrace it, stay with it, then that
It
space is
happens.
created.
Beautiful.
That space, that
Hmm.
still space, which holds
Oh,
everything in
yeah.
embrace.
Yeah, this reminded me of I had read somewhere that whatever you resist persists, and
Hmm.
whatever you accept, it start to dissolve in your wholeness.
Yes, wonderful,
That's
wonderful.
that's what you
Yes,
were talking about, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah,
So it dissolves. So that kind of that those feelings were there, but decreasing,
dissipates.
and a kind of a whole, a feeling of presence and stillness
Presence. Beautiful.
was
Yeah.
there. And at times it would even be a kind of, I would say, sometimes like a feeling of whether I can call it joy or bliss, or
Hmm.
whatever it was, but a nice feeling.
Nice.
And that again would confuse me a bit,
Right.
what is happening.
Yeah.
But that made me understand that this is actually, but what happens is why people don't kind of experience it so often is because we never allow things
Allow
to open
ourselves.
us.
Yes. We don't allow our heart to really be broken and then
Broken,
crack open.
yes.
Yeah, as they
It
say
has to
that,
break,
yeah, it has to break.
and that is why when I'm so glad that you taught you want to discuss about this pain being
Hmm.
a doorway, because when there is pain, intense pain, suffering is actually a catalyst for
Yes, it
transformation,
is.
because
Yeah.
it breaks open that shell,
Yeah.
and and what emerges can be
Yeah.
really transformative and even
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Beautiful. This is my favorite thing. I tell a lot of my coaches that when somebody, a coachee, bring a situation, a difficult challenge, and they are like, "Why I'm going through so much pain?" And I tell them, you don't grow in a party. You can have
Yes.
fun, you can
Yes.
enjoy yourself when you're
Yeah.
going to a party, but when you're going through a challenge, it's like your soul is having a party because your soul is
Uh-huh.
actually evolving through
Wonderful.
that experience. So
Yes.
how did you evolve through that experience, Saroj? Did you feel that there was a shift in the person you are?
Mm-hmm.
Were you operating from a different place? Were you a little different, or what was the difference in
What was
your
the
life
difference? Yes.
overall?
Yes. Actually, there was I would say, a gradual
Hmm.
but tremendous shift.
Hmm.
It's not as if, suddenly
Sudden.
the next day I'm a different
Yeah.
person. So the thing took place gradually over
Yes, of
months,
course.
but a definite tremendous shift, because I could now understand that I was now operating from a more wider presence,
Hmm.
and I could understand that most of people, most of us, and I also uh, used to, and even now do
Yeah.
often, operate from that smaller
Limited.
ego based, identity, which is very fragile. Someone says something, someone, you hear something, something happens, and it kind of breaks
Yeah.
and shrinks back,
Shrinks.
and keeps on changing. If things are going good, then it kind of expands, then it contracts, so it keeps on
Keeps on
changing.
changing.
But here what was happening is, then I gradually, I would see that I was operating from a more expansive place, a
Hmm.
more expansive and lighter presence based,
Right.
beingness. So that kind of, over a period of months, or now it's been years, so that gradually started becoming more dominant. And
Hmm.
as I said, it's still, I would say, I feel that I'm operating from that,
That space.
wider space, but it's not as if that is the only space,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. Okay.
And you'll understand because you're so
Yes.
much into spirituality and all. So there is that ego base. So when something is there which threatens me, maybe something about my family, my kids, or something about, this thing, then that I can see. But now there's that the
Awareness is there.
beautiful, there's that awareness, and
Hmm.
you can witness, okay, now that the ego based is emerging,
Emerging.
and so it is that fear and ego
Hmm.
based.
Hmm.
But then after the thing subsides, and once you witness it, then you know that again you can come back. So now the change has been that you can come again and again to
Hmm.
that, that being more anchored in that
Right.
state of presence and beingness.
Right. Did your family feel any difference, Saroj? And when you were going through this painful period, was your family worried? And when they saw the transformation, how was their experience throughout this?
True. This,
process.
yes, yeah. So my kids were at that time they were small, so they won't understand much.
Okay.
But of course, I had this also. Was a conscious attempt. Ki my fear or trauma should not affect them. It's not as if because I'm having all these feelings, I would vent it out on
Hmm.
them or on my wife. But yeah, my wife was, of course, at that time she was quite worried, and because she could see that something, some major shift
Is
is
happening.
taking place. So she was a bit worried, as being a spouse, ki where is this going to lead? Is
Hmm.
it ki suddenly he stops working? Because just before that also, the process of, I was meeting a lot of teachers and some gurus, and
Hmm.
and spending more time in meditation, and this actually kind of really this thing. So
Yeah.
there was that way, but she supported me a lot,
Beautiful.
because she understood that what is happening is something very significant. And
Hmm.
she knew, she didn't know what exactly she has to do, but she knew that she had to just be there and support it. So she would take care of the kids and things like that, the daily part. And it's not as if I was not functional, but this thing was there, but she was there to just be a neutral support, which was itself very this thing. Because if your partner starts this saying, no, what is happening, why are you doing this, you're ignoring me or neglecting me, then obviously you can't spend. Because at that time I was spending quite a lot of time with
Hmm.
myself, with my feeling, just sitting, just staying, and that. So then, and also now, like when she looks back, and like when we talked, we had this thing in the book launch, she also talked about it. So then she says that after that, she found that the it affected our family as such. So
Hmm.
there's more acceptance,
Acceptance. Beautiful.
like my daughter is now going to be 21. Son is, so they are, son is in that teenage, and daughter has passed that. So there was a lot of last few years, a lot of that those
Hmm.
teenage and growing up turbulence. But there was a lot of acceptance which came
Acceptance.
from this episode, and which helped. As a
Beautiful.
family, it helped us a lot.
Very nice. So beautiful. And I can so relate with this, Saroj. A lot of people tell me when they start their spiritual journey, they're like, oh, I'm learning about meditation, mindfulness, and my spouse is so fearful. Oh, are you going to leave the
Yes,
family? Or are you going to go
yes.
in Himalayas and meditate? So I
Because
think,
you must have also,
yeah,
because I'm sure
yes,
your husband
yes.
must have at some
Yeah,
point
and a lot of
thought,
misconceptions are
huh,
there around spirituality. People think like it's a different world. So if somebody is
mm,
meditating or more into understanding themselves, as if they're going to leave the
the
material world.
yes,
And that is
absolutely,
also this effort, this through this podcast I wanted to do was that this is same
exactly.
world.
It is the same thing. And in
Yes,
fact, when once I last year I gave a TEDx talk, on the
yes.
art of doing and being. So it was a part of it was from the book only, but my main this thing is like, once I emerged from that, this thing. So a lot of my friends or colleagues and all will say, "Ki, okay, this happened to you, and you were either blessed or lucky or whatever this thing." But we can't do that. We can't spend half an hour or hours
Yeah.
meditating. Leave alone
Leave.
1 hour or something.
Yeah.
Even 5-10 minutes. So I said, but we don't have to do that.
Hmm.
Okay, this was part of
Help.
my journey. It doesn't have to be your part, but you can also take small shifts.
Hmm.
And that's why I give the talk on the art of doing and being, that in the process of doing, if we can take those small pauses,
Hmm.
small moments where we anchor
Anchor.
ourselves into presence,
Hmm.
that you does not require any time at all.
Yeah.
And we can all do it, and it can make a lot of
It
difference,
does.
because as you, and that's why I love this podcast of yours and this whole effort, because what you are doing is to convey, and by interviewing people, and you are saying that we don't have to leave anything,
Anything.
we
Yes.
don't have to sacrifice anything. And earlier it was, I would say, decades, or even earlier it had to be, it was
Yeah.
somehow the evolution of humans were there, that you had to leave your the mainstream, and you had to leave everything if you wanted to go into spirituality. But today we can merge
Of
that.
course, of course. I love that you brought this topic of your TEDx talk,
Mhm.
Saroj. I loved your talk, by the way. And the
Thank you.
art of doing and being. I want to talk more about that, Saroj. And especially for people you mentioned that who says, and I have a lot of friends
Yes,
who say that
busy
I don't,
people,
busy
busy
people, and especially
professionals.
doctors.
Yes.
And I've noticed, to be honest, doctors are people like who actually do not take care of their own well-being,
Mhm.
even though they want to take care of their patients and
Yes.
everybody they serve, and they do that beautifully, but not their own
Own
well-being.
well-being.
And they
Yes.
go through tremendous stress, and so much pressure is there for on a doctor. So people who are so busy, how, first and foremost, how did you find time to bring this balance of doing
Mhm.
and being, and what you suggest like people who are busy can do to bring this balance of that they can do things from a space of that center, that
Centered
being they are, which naturally is there, being
is
is
there.
always there,
It's
whether
always
it's
there.
a anxious being, overwhelmed being, or conscious being which is always on the go, or it's a calm centered being.
Centered
That's a
being.
difference, isn't it?
Yes,
So how to
absolutely.
bring that
How to
balance?
bring that? Very, very beautiful. So, in my case, as I said, uh, initially, of course, it was practicing mindfulness and meditation was after reading about Eckhart, and then so it made a big change in my this thing. So I thought that let me practice. And once I started practicing, I could create time. This is a very interesting thing. Now, now we are a few more doctors. Initially, we were only two doctors, and it's quite a busy setup in Kailash and Noida. And as gastroenterologists, we are always having bleeders coming in the night
Mm,
and things like that. And I was alternate day on call, so alternate day my sleep would be disturbed anyway. For
right.
this had been going on for years. When I started doing meditation, I really started enjoying it, and I wanted to take out more time. But the only way was to sleep less, because
Mm,
otherwise the whole day was spent
busy.
working. So I thought, okay, let me start. Like I used to wake up at that time at 6:30. So I said, okay, let me 6:15, 6 o'clock, and let us see. So I did that, and I saw that that half an hour of sleep, which was less, and by meditating it somehow, the rest of the day went so beautifully. And even
Mm,
the quality of sleep, although it was half an hour less, the quality was really
better.
wonderful. So I thought, okay, I became a little more greedy. I thought, let me decrease it further. So then now I wake up at 5 o'clock, and I've seen that from that time the sleep has decreased,
Mm,
but the quality of whatever sleep is there has increased. And the impact that time on meditation it has had on me, it stays on for the whole day. So
mm,
that thing has been there. And of course, now though it's more of, I believe, and as you also know, that meditation is a daily part. It's
yes.
not as if it's only when I do it in the cushion, but it's
Yeah.
while we are
Why?
talking, while we are interacting.
Mm,
And for busy people, so okay, this was my journey. But for many people who don't have time, or who can't take out that time, or who are not motivated, in the talk also I give 6 simple strategies where we can shift into that being mode.
okay.
So the first is presence,
Mm,
being mindful, just being, centered and present in whatever we are doing. So that itself helps us all the time, to come back into that being mode, even
mm,
while we are doing
mm,
whatever. The second is space. So when we think about space, we like, for example, in this room, we are aware of the objects and the chair, furniture, but we are not aware much of the space which makes this room.
right.
So space is that thing which is always a part of us.
Mm,
And the way to create space is, of course, if you can take out time in silence, meditation, or just take small pauses, like I often do during my OPD. When sometimes there are 40, 50 patients, so in between I'll just, for 2 minutes, not much, so 2 minutes, like we are sitting,
yes.
so just, center, feel our feet against the ground, back against the chair. So that creates increased space,
Space, spaciousness.
spaciousness. Then third is Nixon or non-doing, which
Mm,
is, like even in our Sundays and holidays, we feel it ki
Yeah.
we have to do
Yeah.
this also. But if we can take out time where we don't do anything at all, it can be just maybe sitting or
Yeah.
just taking a leisurely walk.
Yeah.
So taking out time for non-doing,
Not
so
doing.
that helps us into being. Then fourth is awe. you know we when we think about awe, we talk about the Niagara or Taj or
Yeah.
whatever, but actually awe is all around us when we are still. Like I would say, just if I sit, this studio is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a
Little
awe
things. Yeah.
inspiring. So we can have these three awe moments every day.
Okay.
So which can be just a nice compliment or a good smile or meeting a wonderful friend.
Yeah. I just
you know
noticing basically what's
just
happening.
noticing. So it's
Noticing
just
what's already
noticing
there.
what's there. And fifth is savoring.
Hmm.
So here also we are often so busy doing things that when something good happens, like you have a nice snack or something, you see a good scenery, we bypass it because we are going to the next thing. So
Yes.
we just take out time, maybe, just if I'm having a uh, even if I'm thirsty, and
Yes.
just
Savoring your
savoring
tea.
even a glass of
Savoring
water
your water. Yeah.
can be so this thing.
Yeah.
And the last is flow.
Hmm.
So when we are so enthralled with some activity that we lose all sense of time or place. So for some it can be reading, writing. For me, I realized it was dance.
Wow.
And
Okay.
although I'm a lousy dancer, I'm supposed to be. My wife and my sister-in-law, they say you don't know dance, but you all the time you're dancing. Whenever there's some. So the thing is, it's not about knowing or not knowing
Hmm.
what makes you come alive. Like
Yes.
talking about it for like doing these podcasts, interviews. So whatever brings you into flow.
Flow.
So these are the things which you don't need any extra time,
Yeah.
or savoring flow. So
Hmm.
we just need to bring more attention
Attention.
to all these things.
Beautiful. I love all of them. And non-doing, doing nothing is one of my favorite as well, Saroj. Yes. Because
Yes,
I realized
yes.
even more than meditation. In my
Mm-hmm.
own spiritual journey, I took time once. I had done like 1 month experiment of just doing nothing couple of years back.
Uh-huh.
And even now I try at least for 10-15 minutes just sitting idle. And there is a
Without.
beautiful book about this art of doing nothing.
Yes,
In which this,
Nixon.
yes.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
word
And they suggest that just sit by the window and just look
look
outside,
out.
no, do nothing. Because we, especially as current times in our society, we are always on the go, doing
Always
one
so.
thing or other. And the way you said is just about just sitting and
Just sitting.
whatever is happening, if we are having tea, water,
Yes.
just savoring, being fully present.
Present,
That's it.
and non-doing, as you said it. Once I started it, it was initially very difficult because we are
It
always,
is very
even in our
difficult.
holidays, we have the thing, okay, we have to do the plumber thing, this thing, so. But when we sit without an agenda,
Yeah.
no agenda, not even, because sometimes even non-doing can become an agenda.
Yes, yes, that can
People will
become.
say, okay,
I
today
have
I'm
to sit.
practicing non-doing so that it'll make me more happy,
Peaceful.
or so no
No
agenda,
agenda. Hmm.
just sit
Yeah.
or walk. As you said, just sit in front of the window, and
Yes.
it can be so beautiful. And over a period of time, you can, once you get the taste of this non-doing, you spend, if I find out, more time for
Yeah,
it.
I love what you said about no agenda,
Agenda.
because I have seen a lot of times, Saroj, that even meditation, doing nothing, all these beautiful practices like savoring, mindfulness, they becomes an agenda
They become an
because
agenda.
we are trying to always achieve something out of it, and
Yes.
that's not that kind of defies the whole purpose of it, isn't it?
Exactly. Very,
And
very
it is very
beautiful.
hard. It is very
It's
hard, and
very
I
hard.
realize, especially now recently, we have become so dependent upon our phones. So
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that when I want to, okay, today I just gonna be relaxed, do nothing, and my mind will go again and, oh, maybe I can just check my email, maybe I can just
Uh-huh.
check my social media. So
Mm-hmm.
that it's literally, I was telling a friend, like, phone keeps
Absolutely.
calling me. It's
Phone
like
keeps.
it's like
Yes, yes,
that.
absolutely. Like I'll say,
Yeah,
for this interview, I've kept the phone there. Now it's been,
yeah.
so then there you
Is
can,
there something?
okay, is there something important
Yes,
going on? So
happening.
we always have that thing
Have that.
subconsciously.
Mm.
And you're very right. We always, even for meditation, it becomes an agenda. Sometimes people I know who are very good professionally, and once they start meditation, they want to become the best
Yeah.
meditator,
That itself is.
because they,
Yeah.
that also they, okay, tell me how can I become the best
Best meditator.
meditator, so there is always that thing ki, I have to be better than the
So
other,
dropping that
or
agenda,
yes,
basically.
so
Dropping
here
that
we
agenda.
just
Be.
drop,
Just be.
just be, just be.
That's the prescription by the doctor. Just be.
Absolutely.
That's so wonderful, Saroj. I love that. So, for the listeners, if somebody is going through any challenge, you have already described beautifully how your experience was going through this challenge and coming out with really, whether we call it transformation or awakening, this beautiful experience of yours that you have shared in your book and you share with so many listeners as well. Is there anything that you would like to share with people who are just maybe starting their journey
Oh.
into understanding it? Where can they start? What would be your, as a doctor's
That's
prescription?
yes, very, very nice, because there are some many people who like who may come up to me, or who come up to you, okay, we feel that something is missing, and there is
Hmm.
something, whatever in our happiness, this thing, something is missing, where can we start? And my tip or advice is, first of all, start wherever you are, you know just right at that point. Don't think okay, once I complete this thing, or I once the kids have grown up, or I have or I become a better person, then I'll start no, wherever you are and whatever is happening, that itself is the doorway.
Right.
Start when we start where we are, because everything, for like in my case, it was this thing which broke me open. For another person, it can be some illness, some tragedy, a divorce, separation, whatever. We are all facing challenges,
Hmm.
or even sometimes we may not face so many intense challenges, but something is happening.
Yeah.
I think that all of them are messengers. All of
Hmm.
these are messengers. So just where you are. And the other very important part is, start small.
Hmm.
Very often, na, like if suppose, if I want to start meditation, then you think, okay, someone says, okay, start with half an hour, or this thing, they'll do it for 2 or 3 days, and then they'll say, oh,
Going.
I can't take out
Yeah.
this time. I always say, why don't you start with just 5 minutes? Just
Yes. Yeah.
5 minutes. Five is also too much. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Those 2 minutes of just being present, maybe you can start with that. And in the book also, last chapters on the magic of habits, and I was very inspired by the Atomic Habits
Hmm.
by James
James
Clear,
Clear.
where everything is about those small
Small.
but practical steps,
Hmm.
where we just, if you are planning to start meditation or mindfulness or the journey, so why not just start with maybe 5 minutes, which you can do
Hmm.
every day. And even if you're not feeling like, today I don't want, that's also okay. You don't have to resist that, just let it go.
Hmm. This also reminded me the talking about agendas that you mentioned about Abhinav Bindra,
Oh
Saroj.
yes,
I would love
yes. Ha,
to
ha,
talk
ha.
about that before we wrap up because he has shared about mental health challenges, and in current
Yes,
times, no matter which professional, people are going through a lot of
lot
stress
of
and mental health challenges, anxiety.
absolutely.
So, just share with us, like, how does this chasing after success
After
and
success.
creating one goal after another, how does it actually impact our mental health? And what would you like to say about
Yes,
that?
especially in the chapter on happiness, I've
Yeah.
described, and because that is something which, like you, I am also very passionate about. What is
What is
happiness?
happiness?
What is so this? I was really intrigued when I read Abhinav's interview. So he said that, as everyone knows, that he's the first this thing archery Olympic
Olympiad.
gold medal of India. And later on, after a few years, he gave this interview where he said that right from childhood, I had this dream of getting that
Achieving
Olympic,
this.
achieving that Olympic medal. Right from childhood, I would practice so many hours a day, and the thing was, I have to attain that dream. And finally, he did also. He got that Olympic, and he was euphoric, and obviously, he became a overnight sensation
Definitely.
and celebrity and all. He said that after months, a few months after that, he went deep into depression, you know
Okay.
because all his life till then, he had this goal that I have to get that Olympic
Hmm.
gold medal. And once he achieved it and that euphoria had disappeared, he felt very empty.
Empty.
He said, now what is left? I've achieved the highest which I've got, and now there's nothing left.
Hmm.
So what is there to do? And he went into depression. But obviously, he's a champion. So he embraced everything, and he met teachers and all. And so now his what he says is, in that interview, he says, while your personal goals and ambitions are very important and they have their own part, but we need to make happiness the gold medal.
Hmm.
Why not make happiness the gold medal? And so he has started that the kind of NGO or whatever for
Okay.
foundation, where especially he's dealing with athletes and sportsmen, because a lot of sportsmen, we have read so many incidents of sportsmen, because they are always after that, that particular
After that,
achievement, the next
yes, the
thing,
gold
a gold,
at the
you
end of
know
the
yeah, what
race.
at the end,
Yeah.
that prize.
Yeah.
So they often fall prey.
Hmm.
So that is what he says, make that as a this thing. And what I also have learned, like as a doctor, I remember when initially after plus 2 the thing was get into MBBS. As soon as MBBS was just the internship part was just going on, then people said MBBS is nothing. You have to think about your post
Next.
graduation. Without a PG, MBBS has no role. So okay, then you go for again. You give the exams, and after
Hmm.
some time you get into PG. So MD, I remember feeling very euphoric. Just maybe few months into my PG, one senior came. He said, "Don't be so happy. Nowadays everyone has to do DM."
Okay.
So that is for people who don't know the super
Super
speciality.
special.
So start thinking, don't think this is that. So then, okay, now you finish
Let's
your
do that.
MD, then you go for your this thing. That the entrance itself is so tough. And I remember, Saloni, after my, finishing my DM, I remember telling my some relative that this is the highest goal of a doctor. When I came out, I met one senior who had finished it 2 years ago. He said, "My dear, now the real battle starts,
Right.
because now you have come as a consultant and you have to make your own ground now. So don't think all that was just an exam." And so, this in
It's
whichever profession we
endless.
have,
Hmm.
there's this thing. So we when our happiness is dependent on an external thing, it is doomed to failure sooner or later.
Hmm.
When we find happiness in the small moments, and also when we become more present and more in tune with our being, we realize that actually our real nature is happiness.
Hmm.
And from my experience, I wrote it in the forward also, one line which I'd felt at one point: this moment is enough, and so are we.
Beautiful. I love
Right?
that. This moment is
This
enough,
moment
and
is enough,
so
and
are
so are we.
we.
So once we feel complete
Hmm.
and fulfilled with right now, not after this, and this is not just for me or you, each and everyone who's watching this
Hmm.
telecast right now, if you are complete, and
Hmm.
once you realize that, I would say, things just become magical, and you can still have all your dreams and aspirations,
Hmm.
whatever
Yeah.
you want to do, but that doesn't come from a sense of lack. It comes from a sense of
Enoughness. I
enoughness.
love that, Saroj, and I think it's such a beautiful wrap of a conversation because most of the time people see the highlights of people's life.
Yes.
They see the big achievements and one goal after another, like for example, celebrities and famous people as well. But people don't realize that most of the time, when even if they notice their own life, once you achieve that goal, that milestone, the happiness is so short lived.
Short.
It's just a
Yes.
momentarily, dopamine hit. That's all it
Absolutely,
is.
it is that
That
hedonic
rush.
treadmill
Yes,
which we call,
it is. Yeah.
So that will last for, it can last for a day, a few days, weeks,
Yeah.
months, but it's going to
It's
come
going
back.
to, and
And
also interestingly, a lot of time I ask people this question, like, how did you feel after achieving that? And most of the time they say, actually people have told me not just 5 minutes. It's so crazy. It
Yes,
could be days,
yes.
it could be minutes even.
Hmm.
And it's, as you said, it's about realizing that we are already enough in this moment
In this
and we are
moment.
complete and whole. And when we operate from that place, and even if we aspire for our goals from that place,
Absolutely,
then it's a
absolutely.
different ball game.
Totally,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes,
Dreams and ambitions and goals are beautiful.
yes.
They
Nothing
they
wrong
they
in that.
motivate us.
Yeah,
That, for example, if suppose I didn't have that thing, why would I write the book,
yeah.
or why would I like to talk about it? Why would
Mm.
I would like to share in an interview or something? That thing, because you want to share that
Share
thing.
it. Yeah,
So the same way, people may have that
yeah.
they want to do a particular job or whatever they can, but what, that shift comes when it comes from a sense of
Fulfill.
fulfillment and enoughness. That
Mm. Yes,
changes.
not making that goal your whole sole
That, okay,
criteria for
yeah,
happiness.
exactly. So
That's the thing.
if I feel ki getting that is going to make
Be
me
happy.
happy,
That's where we are going wrong.
then
Yes,
that is a thing. But if I'm
beautiful.
happy and I want that,
Mm.
I'm happy, but I
Mm.
want that, I would
Yeah,
love to have that, by all means go for it. So
awesome.
then what will happen is ki you're happy even now, you'll be happy or happier even
Yes,
then. But
yes.
it is not, our happiness is not dependent
Dependent.
on external,
Yeah,
because actually our inner nature,
is
that beingness,
happiness.
that is
Love
happiness
it.
itself.
I love to say that be happy first because that's who you are, and then success,
Absolutely.
excellence, whatever you want is naturally going to follow.
It is going to
That's it. Yes.
follow, absolutely. And
Okay.
there again, if we can take another minute, in there's Sean Ocker. He's written a beautiful book, The Happiness Advantage.
Yes. Yes.
So in that, he says that we have all been brought up with this formula, that you study hard, get a good job, become successful, and automatically happiness will follow.
Mm.
But actually it never happens. The most successful people are never really happy. So he said, and he has done research on it, and has
Mm.
brought out this book, that if we make happiness the
The center.
fulcrum, the
Mm.
center, then whatever we are doing will
Mm.
lead to success,
Yes.
because you're already fulfilled and happy.
Yeah. It's the other
So
way around, basically.
and so he says the whole formula which we have been brought up is, it's the other
Flip.
way around.
Yeah. It's the other way
So
around.
that is the quantum shift.
Yes. That's the
When
shift.
we realize
Yeah.
that, okay, the fulcrum is not success or
Yeah.
achievement, it is
It is
happiness.
happiness. It's who you are.
It
It's
is
who
who
you
you
are.
are. Absolutely.
Beautiful. I think it's such a beautiful wrap of our session. Then
This is
just be
really
happy
lovely.
and everything you desire will follow.
Will follow, absolutely. And so this is the quantum shift.
Thank you so much, Saroj, for this beautiful,
Such
beautiful
lovely
conversation. And I would
talking you.
love to actually end this conversation with a beautiful quote from your book that is by Mark Nepo. We need to engage with our lives by having the quiet courage to meet whatever comes our way with open heart.
Yes,
Thank you
wonderful.
so
Thank
much,
you.
Saroj, and
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, all our listeners. And I hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. And just remember, no matter whether you are a business leader, a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor like Saroj, no matter what challenge you go through in your life, the challenge or the pain is here to help us crack our heart open and evolve to the highest level of consciousness. I hope you will share the feedback in the comment section. If you like this episode, please share with other people, comment on the comment section below, and I look forward to see you soon in the next episode of Quantum Shift. Thank you.